It was meant to be just another late-night interview, casual, warm, forgettable. But when Kanye West sat down beneath the studio lights, something shifted. His hands trembled slightly as the name of the new pope, Robert Prevost, slipped into the conversation. What followed wasn't just a story, it was a confession wrapped in silence, memory, and something else no one could name. When he finally spoke, the room stopped breathing. Oh, and before we continue, tell us, what's the one thing you love most about Kanye West? Let us know in the comments. The studio lights flickered on slowly, almost hesitantly, as if even the electricity was unsure about what was about to happen. The audience cheered, but there was something strange in the air. Maybe it was the muffled sound of footsteps or the way the polished floor echoed unnaturally. Kanye walked onto the stage with his usual quiet presence, his eyes scanning the room. He smiled, but it wasn't a smile that reached his eyes. His hands were folded calmly in front of him, his shoulders slightly slumped. He didn't look nervous. He looked distant. The host, all charisma and charm, stood up to greet him with a casual hug, making a joke that danced lightly across the room. "Kanye, you still look like you just stepped off the set of a 90s music video," the host said. The audience laughed. Kanye smiled faintly and nodded. He took his seat, adjusted his jacket, and looked down at the table between them. There was a glass of water, a notepad, and a crucifix, but not just any crucifix. It was broken. The wooden base was cracked, and the figure of Christ leaned awkwardly to one side, as if it had slipped in pain. The host didn't seem to notice the weight of it. He took a sip from a mug with his name on it and kept the energy moving. "Man, so much going on in the world lately. Did you see that the new pope's already making headlines? Robert Prevost, right? He's kind of, I don't know, jet-set, calm, floating above the noise," the host said. The crowd chuckled, but Kanye didn't. His eyes flicked to the crucifix again, then slowly raised to meet the camera's gaze. There was something there, a shadow across his face, something unspoken. "There's something about him," Kanye began, his voice soft but firm. "I've never been able to explain it." The host blinked, caught off guard by the tone. He leaned in slightly, trying to lighten it. "You mean spiritually? Or does he remind you of someone?" "No," Kanye replied. "It's what he doesn't remind me of." A strange quiet settled over the space. The audience grew still, sensing that this was no longer a light-hearted show. The host adjusted himself in his seat, trying again to guide the conversation back to safer ground. "Well, maybe he's just trying to be different. A new kind of pope, right? Every one of them brings a new vibe." Kanye closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them, there was a shimmer in them, not tears but something heavier. He glanced back at the crucifix, then slowly, with reverence, reached out and touched it. His fingers rested lightly on the cracked wood, tracing the fracture as though it were familiar. He held it for a moment, then let it go, leaving it broken where it was. He looked at the host directly. "I've stayed quiet for long enough." The words landed like a stone dropped into deep water. The crowd went completely silent. The host didn't move. No one knew what Kanye was about to say, but they all understood. Something was coming. This wasn't going to be a joke. The camera lingered and the silence grew. Finally, the host spoke, his voice low, unsure. "You've stayed quiet about what, Kanye?" Kanye looked down at the table again, but not at the crucifix this time. His hand moved slowly toward his jacket pocket, and he pulled out a faded, creased envelope. It was yellowed by time, the edges soft as though it had been handled more than it should have. "This arrived a few years ago," he said. "I didn't open it because I was told not to." The host leaned forward slightly, sensing the gravity. "Told by who?" Kanye didn't answer right away. He just looked at the envelope the way someone might look at an old photo, part memory, part wound. "It came after a meeting in Rome. It was handed to me in silence, no explanation, no context, just this." He slid the envelope slightly closer to the host, who looked at it with hesitation. There was no name on the front, only a faint symbol, a cross inside a circle. "I thought it was a mistake," Kanye said, "or maybe a warning." The host raised his eyebrows. "A warning?" Kanye nodded. But there was a note inside the envelope. One line. He looked directly at the audience. "Do not read until the dove has landed." The host stared at him, puzzled. "The dove?" Kanye nodded again. "It didn't make sense to me, not then. But I kept it for years. I almost forgot about it." The host looked at him, unsure whether to press further, but something in Kanye's eyes made him pause. It was as though whatever was coming next was too big to rush. "Do you think it was some kind of warning?" the host asked quietly. Kanye let out a breath. "I didn't understand it then, but I started seeing things. feeling things. It was like my eyes were opening to something I wasn't meant to see. And that letter, that one line? It haunted me. The camera zoomed in as Kanye leaned forward, speaking softly but clearly. The dove has landed. The question is, are we ready for what it means? The host tried to guide the conversation back again, his voice light but tinged with uncertainty. Well, maybe you're just overthinking it, Kanye. You know how dreams can be, how our minds sometimes project things that aren't real. Kanye didn't respond immediately. He sat back, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the table as if lost in thought. When he finally spoke again, it was with a quiet intensity that sent chills through the room. Do you ever feel like you've been chosen for something but you don't know why? Or that something is about to happen, and you just don't know how to stop it? The host opened his mouth but stopped himself, realizing that this wasn't the playful banter of a late-night talk show anymore. The studio, the audience, the host himself, all of them were leaning in now, caught in Kanye's words. The silence in the room was palpable. You see, this Pope, Kanye continued, his eyes narrowing, he's not what they think he is. Not at all. I've seen things that they've erased. People are blind to the truth, man. They don't want to see it. The host shifted uncomfortably. Kanye, what are you talking about? Kanye's eyes glinted as he looked at the host. I've had dreams. I've had visions. But they're not just dreams, they're warnings. Warnings from someone who knew this time would come, when we would need to speak up. He reached into his jacket again and pulled out another envelope, but this one was different. It was smaller, tightly folded, the paper yellowed with age. I didn't open it either, Kanye said, but I know what it says. It's not just a warning. It's a choice. The host watched him carefully, his expression becoming more serious. A choice for what? Kanye looked down at the envelope in his hand, his fingers brushing the edges. It says, if the voice of faith becomes only an echo, the truth will die in silence. The host leaned in, a chill creeping up his spine. What does that mean? Kanye's voice dropped to a whisper. It means they're hiding something. Something that could change everything. The camera zoomed in, catching every nuance of Kanye's face as he spoke. There was no joking, no bravado, just the raw intensity of someone who knew too much and was ready to share it. There's more, Kanye added, but I can't say it all right now. All I can say is this, we're being watched and it's not what we think. The host's eyes widened. What do you mean? Who's watching? Kanye stared directly into the camera. The ones in charge. The ones who pull the strings. But they're not in control anymore. There's something bigger than them coming. The studio lights flickered again, this time more noticeably. The temperature in the room seemed to drop, and even the host, normally the epitome of composure, seemed unsettled. You're saying the Pope's involved in something larger? The host asked, barely keeping his voice steady. Kanye nodded slowly. He's just a part of the plan. But there's something coming and it's going to change everything. The host swallowed, his hands trembling slightly. He could feel the gravity of the conversation weighing down on him. What do you think will happen? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Kanye didn't answer immediately. He just looked at the host, the audience, and then the camera. His eyes seemed to see something beyond the set, beyond the lights, something that none of them could comprehend. I don't know, Kanye finally said, his voice tinged with both sadness and resolve. But when the time comes you'll know. You'll feel it. And it won't be too late. But it might be too late to stop it. The host sat back, unable to say a word. The camera lingered on Kanye for a long moment, capturing the depth of his gaze, before finally pulling back to show the entire set. The lights above flickered one last time and then just like that the conversation ended. But the questions, the unease, and the heavy silence hung in the air long after the camera stopped rolling.